And, oh, I already messed it up. And we are live. Welcome to our podcast.
Fam Damily.
There you go. Yeah, so my name is Courtney.
I'm Miles.
We are the coolest old married couple that you know.
Emphasis on the old.
And this is our podcast, Fam Damily, where we talk about family stories. Yeah.
Your family stories. It could be anything from like juicy gossip or something like, I don't know, cool stories. That's mainly what I focus on because I'm not really one to spread gossip, but...
Okay.
No, I'm a lot into like, cool families and just people that have left their mark on history.
Yeah, for sure. My thing is, one of the reasons we wanted to start this podcast was that one of my favorite memories growing up are multiple different instances where stories were being shared, whether, my cousins and I were standing in line at an amusement park and, our aunts and uncles were sharing funny stories from around the world, or, we're out camping and people are telling scary ghost stories or things that happened, 20 years ago. And I just love things like that. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about family stories, whether they are your family stories or family stories, just in history. That's good, yeah?
Yeah, that sounds good. But another thing is, I feel like a lot of time, there are multiple millions, trillions of families that have lived throughout the history of the earth, and we know nothing about them.
For sure.
And now that we have the technology to share, whether it be our own stories, other people's stories, or whatever it be, I don't know, just have it out there, I think would be a lot better, because there's a lot of people whose stories should be told but never are.
Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but do you have memories of people that you've met, maybe a coworker that was a little eccentric, or a classmate that just loved to talk,
Yeah,
all
the
and they
time.
just tell stories about
Yeah.
their life, and you're thanks, I didn't ask.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're really interesting.
Sometimes. Even if you don't like them, I mean. I'm
Well,
just kidding.
these are the stories that you go home to your spouse or partner or whoever, and you're just oh my gosh, do you want to hear this drama that I heard about so-and-so's uncle's cousin's pet? I don't know.
And that's how rumors are spread. That game, what do they call it? It's I can't remember what it's called. It's a whisper game where you whisper something in one person's ear and then it goes... Yeah, is that what it is? Where they go around in a circle?
Yeah, well, at least that's what I called it, was telephone.
Okay. I think we had a more racist name for it, but...
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that an Australian thing?
It might be.
Oh, geez.
Australians are racist.
Oh, don't come for us, Australia. Miles is from Australia. He can say what he wants.
Bring it. Just kidding.
All right, well, should we get into this then?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just briefly explain since this is episode number 1. What we're going to do is we're each going to share a story, but we're going to do it each episode. So this episode, I, myself, Courtney, am hosting, and I'm telling Miles a story of a family that
I think that caffeine's working a little too well for you.
Talking is hard. Next episode will be hosted by Miles, and then we'll switch off back and forth. And then I think we are going to do at least once a month a listener stories episode. So if you have your own family stories that you want us to share, we will do that. So just email us. Excuse me. Our email is famdamilypodcast@gmail.com. So it's FAMDAMILY podcast@gmail.com. Anywho.
Take her away.
Okay. All right, Miles. You ready for this?
We'll see.
This is a story about one man and 600 children.
Holy... Okay.
You think you know, but you really don't.
Yeah, you're right. I don't.
Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. So in January of 1911, specifically January 28th, a baby was born to Garrett and Gertrude. Okay, let me just preface this by saying that these are German names, and I am very American. And I don't know how to pronounce these with the correct German accent. So I'm going to do my American accent and try my best. So don't come for me. But here we go. So Gerrit Van Holst and Gertruda Hoffman. Great. So Gerrit and Gertruda, they have a little baby. And his name is Johann. Johann Van Holst. Have you ever heard that name before?
I don't think so.
Cool. Well, you're about to. So we're going to talk about Johann. Johann was, the average Joe in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. He came from a modest family. His dad was a furniture upholsterer. Anyways, so he grew up. He got his master's degree in psychology, something that Miles is very interested in.
Yeah.
And he also got a PhD in humanities. So
humanities, cool. Okay.
He got married to a woman named Anna Jeanette Donker. Love the name. They had 2 little kids, him and Anna. So Johann and Anna had 2 little kids. And in 1938, Johann became a lecturer at the Calvinist Teachers Training College in Amsterdam. And Calvinist is a Protestant sect. So he was Protestant. And if you are familiar with times, this is 1938, so it is World War II.
Cool.
Not
cool, but cool. Okay.
So you're kind of getting the picture here, right?
In Amsterdam, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep, in Amsterdam. So, 2 years into his teaching career at this teacher's training college, so it was 1940, the school actually lost funding because of the war that was happening. And so the principal at the time resigned, and Johann stepped up and said, nope, I want to keep this school up, and we're going to find funding ourselves. And so that's what he did. So he rallied the town together, rallied the students and their families together, and was able to raise enough money, fun fact, to keep the school open until after the war.
Wow.
And he was the acting principal. So again, this was during World War II. So in May of 1940, that's when the Nazis took over Amsterdam. So lots of businesses were closing down, and a secret resistance started to form. They call it the Dutch Resistance, and Johann became a part of that, which, thinking about it, is really cool because, to be honest, one of the first times I really recognized the word resistance was while watching Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I knew what that word was, but I never really saw it into play until I was watching movies. But to think about it, in real life and how dire these situations were, to be part of a resistance, that's really cool.
That is cool.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
Stand up for what you believe in.
Right, but at what cost?
Yeah, true that too.
That's the whole thing with the resistance. So he became part of the Dutch resistance, which is, terrifying as it is, but also really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to paint a little picture for you. So where his school was, it was on this little street, and across the street was an old theater. Okay, so that theater kind of became, what do they call it? A Nazi-controlled deportation center, and it was being ran. I wrote it down. Oh, here it is. So it was being ran by a German refugee named Walter Suskina. So I'm just gonna call him Walter because I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Right on.
So it was being run by a German refugee, Walter, and that was basically where they would put the families before they sent them off to concentration camps, all these Jewish and Dutch families. And so that's right across the street, and then right next door, sharing backyards, was a nursery. And so what would happen is these families would be sent to the deportation center, the old theater, to Walter's little part in this, and they would remove the children from the parents and send them over across the street to the nursery. So the nursery, also, this is a really cool story, but it's also pretty sad. It's the Holocaust, so it is very sad. But the nursery was run by a lady named Henriette Pimental. So we'll go with Henriette. She ran the nursery, and it was kids ages infant age to 12 years old that were being sent across the street. And while this was all happening, the three of them, so Henriette, Walter, and Johann, started to kind of like devise a plan with this resistance to help rescue some of these children, because inevitably they were also going to be sent off to concentration camps to be killed. And so it was actually initially Walter's idea. So what Walter was doing is he was rallying families in Amsterdam to adopt these children, but he would do it in a way where like the children, if they looked similar to a family and could go undetected, he would like kind of erase their names from lists and like make sure, you know, the parents are okay with it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're still their children. And then he would send them off to live with other families. And so Johann and Henriette and Walter came up with this plan. So what they would do is they started to smuggle the children away. So Henriette would actually, she used to ask Johann to let the kids play in the schoolyard and the garden and let them sleep in and like take naps in empty classrooms. And so it wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Unfamiliar, uncommon
Okay.
for the kids to be kind of all around those two buildings, if that makes sense. Henriette would convince the parents basically to let their kids be smuggled away. And if you think about, you know, these families in these horrible situations, like knowing that this might be their children's only hope at survival, but I'm sure it was still really hard not knowing what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So she would be the one to convince them to be smuggled out, or to let their children be smuggled out, and then Walter would let their names disappear from the list. And so what they would do is they would send over 30 kids to go stay at the nursery, and then the nursery would get overcrowded, and so they'd be like, hey, you know, Johann, they need a place to sleep, and then they would, like, of the 30, only put 25 names down. And so, like, 5 would disappear at a time. And they had to do smaller amounts just so that they would be undetected.
Right, yeah.
And then they would wait until the tram went through the street, and then they would like basically pass the kids over the hedge in between the backyards, so that the Nazis wouldn't know what was going on.
It kind of reminds me of, like, you know, when was it? Last year, the year before, when there was that war over in the Middle East, and like the families were passing their children over the fence to the American soldiers.
That literally made me cry.
I know, I was there.
That was so sad.
And it just, I don't know, like thinking about, I don't know, just leaving your children behind. That's dreadful.
Especially
that's horrifying.
As a parent.
Right. Mm-hmm. Like, can you imagine?
I don't want to imagine.
Me neither.
And what's horrible is that these are very real situations that are happening today.
It's like you see it in the media and everything, but like
what happened in Afghanistan, what's currently happening in Afghanistan and all over the world.
Like, try putting yourself in those people's shoes. Like, it's crazy.
Well, and unfortunately, we can look back in history and know the result of World War II and of the Holocaust.
It's like you'd think we'd learn from our mistakes, but...
Yeah, but...
we won't go into that.
We're going to make this a little bit better of a story.
Okay.
So, this... smuggling the children situation. It started in January of 1943. So Johann, his wife Anna, a few of his students even, and some of the university students around town that were all part of this resistance, they would smuggle these children. Over the course of a few months, they ended up smuggling close to 600 children, which is where one man, 600 children comes in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they weren't his children.
I mean, no, they weren't.
it made it sound like they were going to be his children. I was thinking in my mind, like, he must be some kind of man whore or something.
No, and I did that on purpose. I wanted to get you.
Oh, you sneaky.
So yeah, I mean, it's a really cool thing. Like, over 600 children. They estimate between 500 and 1,000, but they say 600 is probably the closest estimate.
Cool.
It became a very large-scale underground operation, and so they would hide these children in classrooms in his building, and then, people from this resistance would come and collect them and drive them to, like, outskirts of town to very remote places. They would hide the children in laundry baskets, in boxes, in bags, just until they could get them smuggled out. And they were brought to the countryside.
So how did they, I know you said that, I mean, they were obviously pretty financially stable. to be able to afford to keep that school open until the end of World War II. But like, do they still have enough money for provisions and stuff like that for all these kids? Like, how are they getting...
Probably. Well, I'm sure
necessities
this
for
was
them?
like a whole underground thing, so I'm sure people were smuggling in food and things like
true.
that, you know.
That's a good point.
Well, and like to the countryside, like where these people were being taken, like there were at least 600 kids, right? And so
that's a lot of mouths to feed.
Exactly. There had to have been those kind of numbers of people that are helping.
It's like, what happened to them after they were smuggled? Did they just like join different families?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm assuming, especially since, you know, like I said at the beginning, Walter was trying to get families to adopt these kids and kind of like make it, you know, like, oh, they were your kid all along,
Right.
basically.
Okay.
And so I'm sure there were so many families that were willing to just take them in because, you know, like going back to our example of what's happening in the world today, we're not happy about it.
Right.
You know, I'm sure these families in there weren't like, oh, this is the Jewish problem, you know, like they were definitely willing to help and take in these children. But the dangerous part is that they had to do it in a way that they couldn't get caught because, you know, the Nazis at the time, like they would have killed you on the spot if they found out. So it makes this really scary. So, like I said, this started happening. Johann's operation started in January of 1943, and in September of 1943 is when it was finished because they shut down the theater, and Walter and the last 100 remaining children were sent to concentration camps. And this is where it gets extra sad, in my opinion. There were about 100 kids left, and so they knew this was going to be the last operation, and they were trying to decide how many they could take without being detected. Not all of them at any given time in the nursery could be saved. He said we had to make a choice, and one of the most horrible things was to make a choice. And so when there were these 100 kids left, they had to decide how many to take, and he said that was the most difficult day of my life. You know for a fact that the children left behind are going to die. I took 12 with me. Later on, I looked back and asked myself, why not 13?
That makes me so sad.
Doesn't that just break your heart?
Because that's still, like, 88 kids that got left behind.
Well, and think about, like, you know, the thousands that went through that. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Why do you do this to me?
I'm sorry. I chose...
Does it get happier?
Well, I mean, he saved 600. That's a good thing, right? Okay, so let's move on past that.
Okay.
So at the end of the war, one of the resistance members was actually captured, and they were tortured to the point where they ended up giving Johann's name. So Johann went into hiding. There were 3 weeks left in the war. Obviously, he didn't know how long it was going to take, but thankfully he was only in hiding for 3 weeks. And later on, he went on to say that he'd never held a grudge to this person that gave him away. He said he completely understood. There were no hard feelings because obviously these were dire situations and this person was being tortured.
I like Johann.
Yeah, Johann's he's a really good guy.
Kind of makes you think, like, in that situation, would you do the same?
Forgive them? Is that what you're asking?
No, like, just the whole thing.
Would you, like, rescue these children?
Would you rescue these children?
Well, think about it. During this time, you know, he had 2 children of his own and a wife that was also, you know, helping with this. And, yeah, he had to risk literally everything to do this. Yeah.
But, like, if you were in that, like, you specifically, if you were in that situation, would you do that?
I wish that I would say yes, but when I think about our family and I think about Harper, I don't know if I would be willing, but I also, like, want to be able to do what I can. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, it's just, that is such a dire situation. I feel like if there were ways that I could be more on the sidelines where I would be less, like, at risk of being killed for it. But then again, you think, you know, these Jewish families, they were going to be killed no matter what.
Right.
So you have to think, like, the grand scheme of things, is your life more important than theirs? That's a deep question.
Yeah. We won't go too much into that, but
I mean,
just food for thought, because I mean,
it's really hard.
it is one of those things. Like you would think that. I mean, you would hope that you would do something similar, at least to help out a little bit. But like to go that far to like, risk your family's life and all these children's lives,
right?
like a couple hundred lives, a few hundred lives.
You know, I want to say that I would be the person to help, but I guess I would never know unless I was in that situation.
Let's hope we're never in that situation.
Yes.
Just something hypothetical to think about.
I know, but okay, moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
This is, I'm sorry, I chose a really big downer for the first episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to some happier things.
Yay.
So, after the war was over, obviously, Johann, he was pardoned and was able to come out of hiding. And he was definitely recognized for what he did. He went on, he and his wife had 2 more children, so they had 4 total. He became a member of the Senate from 1956 to 1981 in the Netherlands, and he was part of the European Parliament from 1961 to 1968. One of the recognitions that he reserved is the title of one of the righteous among the nations, and he is one of 5,595 people named by Jerusalem to receive that award.
Wow.
And it is basically an award given for non-Jews saving Jews. And like I said, less than 6,000 people, barely, but less than 6,000 people got that, and he's one of them.
Which like seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not.
Right, yeah. But like, what an honor, you know?
Right.
That's so cool.
Good for him.
His school today is still standing. It is actually a Holocaust museum.
Oh.
We should go visit that. I would love to.
You want to go to Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this also would be a very like solemn thing, but I would love to go visit, and it wouldn't be like a yeehaw vacation.
No, it'd be more like a. No, I get what you mean.
Yeehaw vacation. I just coined
You're
that.
such an American.
Shut up.
Yeehaw! I love you.
Whatever. I love you too. Okay, so the Prime Minister of Israel visited him in 2012, and he said, "Those who saved one life saved a universe. You have saved hundreds of universes."
Aww.
So one thing about Johann too is that he was very humble, and he actually hated talking about this whole experience. And I feel like this actually reminds me of like the kind of person that you are, because he only really thought about the kids he couldn't save.
Aww.
And like, as grateful as he was that the 600 kids made it, that, you know, it really haunted him that there were thousands that went by that
Like he couldn't do more.
exactly. There were even some of the kids went to him after the fact and thanked him, and he basically told them like, you know, we don't need to talk about this anymore.
No.
Even though like he literally saved their lives. Anyways, so I'm gonna share a quick little fun fact about him. So Johann really enjoyed chess. So during the war, he would play chess with some of the Jews that were in hiding. And because, you know, they were in hiding, they would like play in secret basements and things like that. Anyways, at the age of 95, he won a chess tournament. He won what's called the Chorus Chess Tournament for former politicians at the age of 95.
Wow.
And then he won it again in 2010 at the age of 99.
Dude.
Yeah. So Johann, he died on March 22nd, 2018. 4 years ago.
Good for him. That's a long time to live.
He was 107 years old. His wife died in 2006, so you know, he rejoined his wife, but he was survived by his 4 children, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren.
Oh, good.
So that is the heavy but incredible story of a wonderful man named Johann Van Holst.
I like Johann.
Johann's a cool dude.
Speaking of chess.
Oh.
I know. Sorry, kind of little side note. Did I ever tell you about that guy in Bulgaria? He was He was pretty old, blind as a bat, could not see worth a damn. And we would play chess with him every now and then. And he would beat us every time.
And he was blind?
He was blind. Well, he wasn't like super blind, but to the point where he couldn't tell which pieces were what on the board.
And he would still beat you?
He would still beat us. And I was like, wow. And I'm not great at chess, granted. I wouldn't say I'm bad. I'm probably bad in some people's eyes, but I don't think I'm that bad. But again, not great.
I bet you could square up against Johan.
I doubt it. But anyway, this guy, what was his name? Georgi. His name was Georgi.
Wait, how do you say that? Georgi?
Georgi.
Georgi?
Georgi.
Did I say it right?
Yeah. Good job. Yeah, he was a real fun guy. We would like call him up like, Georgi, you want to go and play chess? He's like, yep, be there in 10 minutes. Like, sweet.
Sweet. So
and then we'd play, and yeah, I know, right? We'd play, and even though it was, he would ask which piece was what. Like, he'd look at the board and be like, "Is this the queen? No, that's the rook. Oh, okay." And then like look for the queen. Where's the queen? Where's the queen?
That's cool.
Yeah, he was a really fun guy. He was a champion in one of the Russian tournaments back in the day. Yeah.
Wow.
So like, good reason why we lost, but I mean, he was still blind. Wait,
you mean to say that you were not also a champion at chess in the Russian tournaments?
Sadly, no. came this close.
Awesome.
I'm just kidding.
Well.
But yeah, Johan.
How's that for episode number 1?
I like it. That's a good story to begin with.
Is it?
Good. I mean, well, no.
Depressed.
But yeah, me too. Because now I can't stop thinking about those other children that he couldn't save. Anyway, he I don't know, it's just good motivation for those people who are like, I don't know, afraid to do something. I'm like, look at this guy. He risked everything. Literally everything.
Like, we have no excuse.
We have no excuse. There's something good in your life that you want to do, go do it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that, and like, life is really short.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of us get to live to be 107.
Right.
But...
Not all of us are chess champions at 95 and 99.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We have a while to get there.
See if I live that long.
All right. Well, how do we end this thing?
The end. Bye. I'm just kidding.
All right, guys. I promise not every episode is going to be this depressing. So tune in next time. And
next episode will be fun.
All right. Bye.
Bye.